Hey, I gotta take Samara to her thing, so Rosie's gonna stay here. I'll be back. We're gonna come back and get back and come back.
Let's see. Oh, hey, there he is. Hey, Peter.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
Doing all right for a Monday.
Good, I tried Tuesday and Wednesday, and everybody that wanted to come balked at Tuesday and Wednesday, so sorry about it not being a Tuesday or Wednesday.
That's all right.
But we got the 4 to 5 o'clock period, right?
Yeah.
We'll try again next week on a Tuesday or Wednesday. So it may just be us, but what any questions from last week?
I don't really. I mean, I took the exam on Saturday. I didn't do well, but I mean,
okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't have enough time to read the material yet for this week.
Okay. Yeah, it's this week I think it'll be easier. This week we go completely out of the substance and we go kind of take a break to the attorney-client relationship. So this week has very little to do with like legal substance. we kind of take a break from all that heavy stuff, and we go into like why give an attorney well, thanks, baby. 5-year-old gave me a goldfish. Thanks, baby. That's nice of you. Thanks. Say hi. No, I don't want to go back there. Take it back into there. But we'll go into you know, we'll just take a break from the substance and go into like, you know, why give attorneys some sort of privilege to talk to people? What, you know, why not just make everything that you say to an attorney available to a court and to the public? You know, so that criminals, when they come in and say, you know, I shot my wife and I'm sad about it, but I need you to defend me. Why can't an attorney say, hey, say that in this recording because I need to make sure you get the electric chair for that? What would be the point of, you know, well, I mean, why not just do it that way? Wouldn't justice be better served if we did it that way instead of the other way, which is just, okay, tell me more, because everything you tell me has a higher privilege than ecclesiastical privilege, spousal privilege, or physician privilege. I mean, it's the highest privilege. A court will give more deference to an attorney-client privilege than any other privilege there is. Why does it matter that a person can just outrightly tell everything he's horribly done and then say, now I need you to defend me and get me out of all this? Why does that help? How in heaven's name can that help our system? Kind of a interesting question or dilemma that we face in the way American jurisprudence and English kind of jurisprudence came about. You know, and so those are the issues that we're going to deal with this week. It has very little to do with contracts or some sort of substantive piece of law. This is more about ethics and why do we protect that privilege and relationship so much. And I can tell Stephanie's saying, you're right, burn them. You know?
Well, I mean, that bias thing, you know, you're reading the accountants and the bias. Does the lawyer have a little bias as to if he knows his client's guilty?
Yeah, it's hard.
I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, I tell you, I've got a lot of pro bono cases. You know, I just finished as a jail minister for 2 years, and I've heard so many horrific things, and I just thought, boy, if I could have a tape recording in here, you guys would all go in. You'd stay in here for 20 more years.
It makes you feel better to know that they got convicted correctly, you know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So you finished, so you're not having to do that anymore?
I served my 2-year mission, you know, as a mission call for 2 years to the jails, and I got to teach the gospel, but you know, you also do one-on-ones with them, and a lot of them tell you, this is what I did. So you're under ecclesiastical privilege, but they also find out sometimes that you're an attorney, so they try to get some legal support, and you try not to let them know that, but they look you up and they find out, and I tell them, look, I can't represent you. But
yeah.
When they tell an attorney something, say, I'm trusting my attorney-client privilege, you can't then turn it around and say, I'm not an attorney, and now I'm turning you in for the 7 murders you just told me you also did that you didn't tell anybody about, you know.
Yeah.
Some of these people deserve a lot more than they got, and a few didn't deserve, you know, frankly, probably what they were in there for. But I don't know, Stephanie, you got a good point. I think what I always point to is the Savior saying he's going to look at me and try to defend me, and I think I'm glad he's a defense attorney. But he's probably the only good example of a defense attorney, right? most of them finished at the bottom of our class. Defense attorneys and family lawyers are always kind of the bottom of the class. They're the ones nobody wants to be because they deal with emotional issues and non-paying clients and scary things. And but those are the things we'll be going into this week. And so just think about it a little, and you know, you won't have to deal with so many hardline principles like the UCC, but more of what is your heart, and what, you know, there'll be rules, but it'll be more like, why is this important to society to give a person a place to go and say, I need somebody to defend my interest in court. Why is it important? And it's a hard question, but I think one thing you'll find is that as lawyers, we take an oath like doctors do. We take an oath before the bar, raising our hand to the square, by the way, that we will, you know, observe certain things, and that we will be officers of the court, and that at any time a judge can look at us and say, you're now out of the bar, and you're now, you know, your career's ruined and you're gone. And so I think what helps is that when you have a representative that knows their career and their livelihood and everything is at stake, if they're frivolous, or if they defend somebody with too many lies and too much dishonor, then the judge will throw the book at you as a professional, because you're an officer of the court too, as well as representing zealously your client. If you just let the client come in and defend himself, he would say all sorts of lies. But as a lawyer, you have to say, look, I gotta do this first, and then I'm gonna come play with you, okay? You need me to turn something off for you.
But we don't have it. Mom, can you want for me to stay on there?
Mom got some milk.
Don't you get it hard?
Yeah, she did. It's out in the outside garage, and I'll come get some for you, okay? So it's important that an officer of the court for each side, like, that represents their clients really zealously, they say, also knows that they can lose their job at any given time if they're frivolous. And so those are the things you think about when you think, if we didn't have lawyers, you know, maybe the world would be a better place. But you would also say, I mean, think about in family court, if a man and a woman were just screaming at the top of their lungs at each other in front of a judge, without lawyers on each side saying, okay, let's settle, you know, please settle down your clients there. Let's get to the bottom of these matters, like right now, to just the most important issues. If a man and a woman were screaming at each other, nothing would ever get done. I guarantee you. You know, I personally, my first wife, and I've been married now. I've been married twice. My first wife left me with my 4 kids. She left with my best friend, just took off after 12 years of marriage. Took off on the back of a Harley, and I raised, you know, 4 kids for a long time until she ran out of money, and then they came back and sued me for child support. If I wouldn't have had an attorney, even being an attorney, I would have been screaming at the top of my lungs, pounding tables, going, she left me with my best friend, you know. I needed an attorney to hold me down. She needed an attorney to hold her down so that court had decorum. That was family law. It's the same in criminal law. It's the same in contracts, the same. So I'm not trying to get on a soapbox. I'm just telling you, think about why over centuries of time and even millennia of time, they've for some reason decided maybe it's better, even if you're paying someone, to have a representative that says, you know, okay, Jennifer, okay, you know, Weston, okay, Stephanie, okay, Peter, hold on just a minute. I know you want to scream at this person, but I'm an officer of the court. My livelihood's on the, I'm representing you, but I'm an officer of the court. I took an oath that I would be true to the bar in this court and you, zealously to you, but I've got to represent a middle ground here that will get to the most important issues so that we can get this resolved and not let you just scream at everybody and then have the judge throw us all out. Okay? I know, but see these people right here? This is my daughter, Cozy. Hi, Cozy. This is Cosette. And she wants milk right now, but I need just a few more minutes, okay? Can you ask Jack to go get the milk out? Because if I leave them right now, then they're going to be lonely. They're going to be lonely. And I can get you milk in like 5 minutes, okay? Please. Give me 5 more minutes, okay? Thank you, girlfriend.
It takes a lot of strength to resist cuteness like that.
I know, but she plays on it. And, she knows she can get me usually, but I have to resist. It's true, Weston. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. I've talked too long. I want to maybe comfort you a little. This week's not going to be as hardline laws about, torts and procedure and jurisdiction and contracts and UCC. It's going to be more about your heart and maybe ethics. There's rules, but it's more like, why do we even have an attorney-client relationship and a privilege? Why make this privilege? There's only a few privileges that the courts allow, right? There's the attorney-client privilege, there's a spousal privilege, and there's an ecclesiastical privilege, and it usually, sometimes and often, a physician privilege. Other than those, usually a court won't allow. You can't say, well, I got my best friend privilege, Weston. Everything I told you about that murder I did is fully, you can't be held as a witness. That there's no best friend privilege. There's no best dog privilege. There's no, favorite, I don't know, contractor or construction worker privilege. It's simply those four. And the ecclesiastical ones has some holes in it. They have to report child abuse. The spousal privilege has some holes in it sometimes. Everything you tell your wife, almost all of it is privileged, but sometimes there's holes in that one. The physician, again, with child abuse, you do certain things you can be told on. If you're going to commit suicide, you're going to commit a murder. The attorney-client privilege almost has no holes in it. It's almost like, unless you tell them, I've committed murder, I've hid the gun right here under your office, and I'm going to use it tonight to go kill Weston. That's about the only situation, and it has to be Weston too. We can kill Stephanie, but Weston, I have to turn that in. Stephanie's okay, Peter's okay. It has to be a person named Weston. I'm just kidding. It has to be a future event that they are planning. That's the only time. And even then, an attorney has to use like certain ethical remedies to try to talk them out of it before they actually do something to turn them in, to get the help they need. Not to the police first, but to get them the help psychologically, and then make sure the police are engaged so that they don't go kill someone. But it's amazing. Why do we do that? Why do we give so much deference to a lawyer? Aren't lawyers the brunt of jokes? Don't we make jokes about these people?
Well, aren't you supposed to give counsel, right? So they're not, you can't give them the counsel they need if they don't feel like they can trust you with the information they're giving you, is what I would think.
Yeah. That's a good point. You want them to be able to open up to you so you can say, you're right. You shouldn't have done that. This is the way you should have acted. And are you going to act like that again? You want that. This is the way you'll read this week. Is it'll have a chilling effect if the courts and everyone else knew what you were talking about. it would have a chilling effect on all of us to not talk to our attorney if we knew we would be turned in, or everything we said would be completely lambasted or come back in our face. And so, boy, that attorney-client privilege, even in documents, even in emails, phone calls, I've done so much discovery where it says attorney-client privilege on a document. We take it, we throw it away, we rip it to shreds. We don't have to give it to the other side, because even if it says on there indicting things that really would help the other side, if it's privileged properly, just like Jennifer said, you want to encourage talking to somebody. And you'd think, well, then why not do that for a psychologist or a doctor or your wife or your great priest? And they do, but it's not even to the level of an attorney, because they want society to work out its legal problems, because all these other areas are really important, but they, I can be part of the snake biter religion too, that helps bite little kids with snakes, and nobody who knows where each religion will go. So could a priest of the snake biter religion teach people to do that? They don't know. But the law, the people that pass the laws in the courts know that at least they have control over the laws that they pass in society, and therefore they can trust that an attorney who swears by the bar that they will be true to that. That's kind of that baseline. And I guess there's just some sort of weight to that compared to other things. Now someday, maybe in the millennium, that's going to change, where Christ rules. It's the lawyers are probably going to be kicked out. Won't need them anymore. You kick them out. We'll all go to the celestial kingdom where we belong, right? But until then, there's a real privilege to it. So. Sorry, I've talked way too much. What other questions do you have then about either last week's exam, UCC, bankruptcy, the ugliness that you just experienced, the bedwetting, the therapy sessions you're now having to have, all of that based on that fourth exam?
I will say that the review exam or quiz for this week wasn't too bad. That was not bad. So if we're not making a questions this week, where does the review quiz come from next week?
The review for next week, on the quiz.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. For are you talking about for exam 4? You mean?
No, for lesson 8 review quiz. So usually this week we'd make a question and we are tested on all the group's questions next week, but we're not supposed to make a quiz question this week. So what's making up that review quiz next week? Because I looked and there is one there.
Yeah. So we're giving you a break on creating your own questions, but there will be, I believe there's still, if I'm not mistaken, there's still a quiz that will help you review. But you've got a good point, Stephanie. Will you be as prepared? Because you had a really good, Group 10 had a really good quiz question, as I recall, this last week. You won't, we've toyed with different things, and sometimes I think the students have said, hey, right down the middle of the class, can you at least give us a break from this week-to-week stuff? I hate my class. I'm ready to murder all of them. And so I think this is the week we chose to do it when it's just kind of an ethics, kind of a attorney-client relationship one, where we just give you the quiz and you don't have to meet really as much as a team. So there will be a quiz and you will be able to review that way. But you're right, Stephanie, your review will not be as deep because you won't be coming up with your own quiz question, I guess, in a way.
Doesn't hurt my feelings any.
Yeah, she says that growling at her. Sounds like she's been making up all of her quiz questions for her team, because week 10 has been having some good ones later, or group 10 has some good quiz questions.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So I came in a little bit late. So we're not doing a question this week, is what they're saying. So are we still supposed to meet, or we don't need to meet, or with our groups?
I think we scrapped the meeting for this week, didn't we, Stephanie? Somebody might have.
No, it says to to come up with your
Yeah, we should scrap.
goal. Yeah. But we're supposed to actually meet for a complete hour, and it has a whole list of discussions to discuss the things that we find for our examples. And then we're supposed to write a paragraph and turn that in.
That's what it is. Okay.
But if you want to scrap it all, we won't.
Or we could do something different.
Worry about that.
Okay.
If they might come to it.
Yeah, you need to turn in something, and so you're right. It's a quiz question. It's some sort of paragraph on the ethics. So that's what it is. We keep changing it semester to semester. So if somebody else has a question?
Yeah, I had another one. Although Quinn, if you want to ask first, I can see you got your mic on.
And then the PEG ratio has a 0 for the CMR as well.
Sorry, no, I don't have a question.
Okay, I think somebody else had one maybe.
Yeah, well, so my question, and it was actually from last week, looking over the chapter, when it had the part about like the door-to-door salesman rule and like the telemarketing rules that you can't call someone after 9 p.m. and all that, I started thinking about that. How is that even enforced? And how would you even, you know, if someone were to call you after 9, I mean, how could you even enforce and be like, hey, you just, you know, broke that rule? You know, how does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard to track them down when you know, when even sometimes star 69 doesn't work on finding out who it was. Singapore's law, for example, is really strong on this one. I mean, they have a privacy law that includes 2 years in jail, I think it is, for telemarketing that is either out of hours or that collects data that they shouldn't be collecting data through telemarketing purposes. Canada just changed their law, hardened it a lot too. So you're talking about enforcement of it, right, Jennifer? Like, how do you enforce?
I was reading that. I thought, oh, that's good. But I thought, well, how is that even enforced? You know, do people actually abide by that? And if they don't, do they get caught? I mean, I just wondered how you even enforce those types of rules or laws.
Yeah, you're supposed to be able to do certain things. I mean, one is write a letter. You're supposed to be able to give notice to the telemarketer and say, you know, I want to be taken off your list. If there's certain steps that you can take, I don't think there's a federal law, but it doesn't have a lot of teeth in it. I think sometimes some states have passed harder laws that preempt the federal law that go above it and beyond it. California has a pretty strong one. So I don't want to talk to what yours are. I know a little bit about Oregon's, Utah's, and Arizona's, but just because those are the states I'm barred in. But you might want to look up, you know, if you're the one thinking about Idaho, I wonder, I think that's the one we tested on.
Yeah.
There are ways you can get telemarketing companies in a lot of trouble calling at the wrong hours. You'll see that they will call around dinner time, because it usually doesn't fall outside, you know, too late or too early. But dinner time is a problem because it's should be a time when you're not bugged. And yet, you know, a lot of these New York companies that call at 9 p.m., well, they don't care that it's 6 p.m. in Idaho. But if you do follow the rules and you do follow them to the letter, these companies can be fined quite a bit. They can be even prosecuted if they have enough evidence against them that they continually, you know, either manipulate or violate the rules. The problem with them, a lot of these companies, is that they're just fly-by-nights. If you've ever worked for one of them, and I did starting out in college, I'll admit it, you know, I was in one of those rooms with 40 people that smelled terrible, 40 phones along, that, you know, that you didn't even want to touch the handle of it. You got paid like, you know, $4.25 an hour. You call everybody on the list over and over and over again. And boy, I was so glad when I got my job at the MTC, because it was a horrible experience. And the minute that company got enough letters and started getting investigated, they just kind of closed up shop, closed down. This was in Provo. They closed up shop. Everybody got fired, and they just moved, you know, somewhere else, and probably opened up under some other name, you know, hired up about 40 new, you know, freaks like me, and started up again. And Jennifer's got a good point. I mean, enforcement, the law is one thing, enforcing the law is a whole different ball game sometimes. And so that's what a lot of countries are trying to do now, is find ways to enforce better on telemarketers that everybody hates. But then again, I probably offended 3 of you who are telemarketers and who are trying to promote your business right now. There's Weston saying, "Thanks a lot. I sell motorcycles on the phone." You know, you just now.
Yeah, I wish I'd probably make more money than I do now working for the school. So, but not really.
I was just wondering, because we're living in Virginia now, but we moved to Virginia a year ago from California, and my cell phone number is a California area code. And so so we get these calls from telemarketers, California time, Pacific time, and it's, 11, 12 o'clock in Virginia. And of course I got my phone on Do Not Disturb now, but, and it's not a big deal. But as I was reading through that, I'm like, oh, I could do something about that. And I thought, oh, how do I do something about that? But it's not that big of a deal. But
I got a call at 6 o'clock in the morning today. It woke me up, and I was really confused. It never happened before. So I feel you.
I wish you could do something with a smartphone that would be smart enough to tell if a telemarketer is calling you, and then having some high-pitched screeching sound or something answer it, or something to get them back, right? Maybe one of you can invent that, and that'll be, you'll make $1 million. If we can do wonderful things with social media and things with these amazing phones, put in all your friend numbers, put in your network, and then say any other number outside of this or that is identified as a known telemarketer gets the following message out of
that. Would be pretty awesome. Put your bishopric on there and you'd never have to speak again.
Yeah, that's right. No callings for me, no speaking engagements. Yeah, there you go. Stephanie's invention, the no calling, no speaking engagement screech. And I don't know, Jennifer's got a point that, the difference between passing a law and then enforcing it. I had a guy that owed me $6,000 as a BYU student, and that's a lot of money, as you know. I'd worked really hard. I think part of it was student loans, and we went into building this car together, refurbing this car that had gotten in a small accident together, and we bought it, and then he took off with it. He got kicked out of BYU and took off with the car. He sold it and then used that money to buy, I don't know, something else. And I went to law school, and I finally caught up with him. I finally used some databases to find out where he was. And he'd opened a snowboard store with some friends that wasn't very successful. But I found out what a writ of execution was. That literally I could go in, I could get the sheriff with a default judgment against him, which I filed, and he never responded to, for the $6,000 that he owed me. Luckily, it was within the statute of limitations, and I got, because I had the judgment from before. It wasn't, and I thought, what am I going to do with this default with the default judgment? What am I going to do with this? I got a writ of execution in Utah, which means I could take it to the sheriff and say, I want to go execute against everything in his house that doesn't have a lien against it, or that doesn't have a priority. Remember that from bankruptcy. And literally, the sheriff just really scared this kid. I felt bad for him, but he was newly married, and the sheriff just walks in with this writ of execution and starts tagging this guy's new Harley and lamps and some other things, and his wife's just crying, and $6,000 worth of equipment, stuff they just take away. And it wasn't a new Harley, it was a used Harley, but they just literally, they carted it off, and they said, if you want to, we're going to auction this off in a week. You have a week to pay $6,000 to this gentleman. And it was me, and plus interest, state interest at 9% a year that had accrued for 5 years. Me going through the rest of BYU in law school. And boy, that guy, I told him where to meet me. He was just in tears. He came to me, and I really felt bad, but it was amazing how, to Jennifer's point, the law kind of worked. The law was against me because I did everything under the law, and it did nothing for me. But once I found out how to execute under the law, boy, this guy, I don't think he probably ever messed with somebody again once he knew in front of his wife that people were going to take his stuff right in their home with a nice big piece of paper. And unfortunately, sometimes it takes you a while into your 20s or 30s, sometimes older, to learn that lesson. So the 6,000 didn't feel as good, but as it would have when I was a BYU student. But it, you know, and I still wonder if it was the right thing to do. But I knew I would have never seen that money again, nor would I have ever seen him again, and he probably would have done it again and again.
But yeah, that might have kept him out of further trouble. You might have done him a favor.
Yeah, I made the call on that one, and later, you know, got hit by a drunk driver and didn't do anything. The guy left town, hit another family, and killed them all. So sometimes you know what to do, sometimes you don't, and you just try your best. But Jennifer kind of hit a nerve, because what the law is and how to enforce it, boy, those are two different things. So any other questions, concerns, egg throwing about this last test?
That wasn't such a
evil
good
speaking
test.
about your teacher.
That wasn't such a good test, but we can't see what we got wrong until tomorrow night.
Oh yeah, that's right, Stephanie. Good. So you don't have to throw eggs at me just yet, then, right? After that.
That's why you wanted to meet today, right?
Yeah, that's right. Tomorrow night. Well, the UCC is typically the hard one, right? It's bankruptcy and UCC too, but some people do really well on it. They just think that way. So I'm sure you'll do well.
I was kind of surprised. I didn't know I did so bad.
You never know. And the next one, you'll probably get a 99 on it, like Weston did on his first test. Sorry, Weston.
Yeah, then I got egged. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to get egged now. But each one of you have done, like, some of your tests have done really. I think Peter, you did like really well on your first test. A couple of you have done like really well on one test, and then, boy, I was just ready to kick you out, each of you out of every other class after some of these tests. But I try to be merciful on the appeals, so at least in the end, I think you're going to find that your grade is, you know, satisfactory, and maybe a lot of people get A's in my class. You know, you'll be happier. I think you just stick with it. The end of the class gets usually it gets a little easier as you deal with one tangible concept at a time, rather than these broad contracts and things. But I know you'll probably hate me at the end saying, you told me it would get easier. So I'll deny everything I just said to any of you if you quote me on that. But
yeah, well, the problem is, Brother Christensen, is you're recording this right now. It's on YouTube for everyone to see. Well, depending on if you put it on unlisted or private, I guess you can solve that. But.
That's true. I guess I'm gonna have to change all your grades to make myself prophetic here. But
exactly,
which I just got recorded on again. Great. But hey, I've been doing this for 7-8 years, so I kind of know how the curve goes, and I don't bell curve. So if everybody gets an A, everybody gets an A. You know, if everybody gets an F, well, then you don't know where I live. You don't know, right? You don't know where I live, right? None of you know where I live? Yeah.
I'll tell that janitor where you live. Let him handle you.
Yeah, the one the other night. That was scary.
I'm sure we can find you on social media somewhere.
Yeah, Quinn's gonna find me. He's gonna be like Steve Buscemi, putting red lipstick on his lips and putting me at the top of his list or whatever.
I was gonna say I might have enough information. My husband's a federal law enforcement officer. I think he might be able to find you.
Oh, he will. He'll come in with one of those writs of execution and take my Harley if I had one. But I'm not worried. I'm not too worried about y'all. I think you'll be happy. There are those students that say, hey, if I don't have a 99% the whole way, then I'm frustrated. And I get it, Stephanie. I get it. But just you guys are the ones coming to class. I know who you are.
I'm happy with where I am.
Okay. Well, there's always extra credit if you're really feeling like, look, this class is unfair. I want to make this fair. I want it to be a learning experience. If at the end, and it's not going to be a learning experience if you leave with a C and you go, I deserve higher. So let us reason together, and we'll figure out, how to make it a learning experience with you still feeling like you got what you deserve. All right. Okay. Have a great week. Have a good family home evening tonight. And don't, tomorrow night, I was in England, and I remember, they taught us that All Hallows Eve was because the next day is All Saints Day, November 1st. So all the ghouls come out to stop All Saints Day from happening. So just remember, All Saints Day will happen on November 1st, no matter what you dress like tomorrow night. So Peter, none of those weird werewolf costumes like last year or whatever, okay? All right, take care, okay? Be good.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah.